time by Sagicor Life and Advantage General is
7 a.m. and it's now time for the Morning Watch with Mr. Stokeley Marshall. Today, the Morning Watch is brought to you by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, providing opportunity, stability, and social protection.
NIS pensioners, avoid the wait. Get your NIS pension straight to your bank account. It's easy. Simply visit the Ministry of Labor and Social Security's website, mlss.gov.jm, or the nearest NIS office and collect the direct deposit application form. Then complete the form and submit it along with supporting documents to the NIS office nearest you. Avoid crowds and long lines. Get your money when you want it. The National Insurance Scheme, always working for you.
The Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook Live and YouTube Live. In the main watch today, postponement of JFF elections. In the second watch, the Israel-Gaza war. What should be the Christian response? In our social media question, we ask, what should be the Christian response to the Israel-Gaza war? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, as I quote.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. So today's I quote says, "You never really learn much from hearing yourself speak." And this is from George Clooney.
Well, it's not anonymous today.
Finally, somebody owns up to their statement.
You never really learn much from hearing yourself, so we should all shut up.
Yeah, no, basically just stop talking and just learn from others.
Understood. Very interesting I quote indeed. The main watch. We'll be back after this break.
I am a man, yes.
You can't afford to miss the next episode of The Mailbox as we explore the topic, Man na Ball, Invite. Part 1. Men have been socialized to stifle their emotions inside instead of feeling safe enough to share their authentic feelings. It appears that the only emotion accepted from men by the society is anger, which if not managed correctly can be destructive. You're invited to join the conversation with our esteemed guest, Mr. Owen Blacker Ellis, on Wednesday, January 17th at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, The Mailbox, Monday.
There is every year on the third Thursday in January, the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast Committee hosts the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast. This is the 44th annual staging under the theme Choose Hope, Arise and Build. Join in the National Leadership Prayer Week, Wednesday, January 17. Pray for health sector leaders. Then on Thursday, January 18, it will be the 44th annual National Leadership Prayer Breakfast at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, live on Love 101 FM. It's a special week of prayer for Jamaica, land we love. The National Leadership Prayer Week, prayer service, and prayer breakfast. Love 101 endorsed events.
welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch. Now, concerning the Jamaica Football Federation, the president, 4 vice presidents, 2 ordinary members are the posts that the delegates of the federation will be asked to elect. There has been a postponement of the elections due to an injunction granted by the Supreme Court following, an appeal made on behalf of Beach Soccer Jamaica. And what are some of the issues in what appears to be a most earth-shattering matter? And in relation to this matter, because we know that there are matters before the court, we will not be necessarily commenting per se, but more so reporting on the matters present at this time. We have as our guest Kathia Davis, sports commentator and host of Sports Talk on Love 101 FM, the number 1 gospel station of Jamaica. And we also have Jackie Cummings. She's an attorney at law, but she's here this morning in her capacity as JFF, Jamaica Football Federation's vice presidential candidate. She is with Team Anderson. We unfortunately do not have anyone from Team Ricketts today, and we would love to have someone from Team Ricketts present on this program, perhaps in a future discussion on this matter if we revisit it. Good morning, Kathia Davis, who is with us in studio.
Good morning, Stokeley.
Great having you in studio with us, Madam Kathia Davis, and of course, Jackie Cummings. Are you on the platform with us?
Yes, good morning. Mr.
Jackie
Marshall.
Cummings?
Good morning. Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Council. How are you? I think you're a bit spotty. We're hearing you sometimes, and then we don't seem to be hearing you at the moment. Are you hearing us clearly?
Completely clearly. I'm hearing you very clearly.
Okay, wonderful. Right. So I think we're now hearing you as well clearly. Now, can someone outline for us the current matters affecting the JFF elections? I know that I could ask you to, if I could say open, Jackie Cummings, but I am going to defer to Madam Kathia Davis, who is with us in studio. She's a commentator and host of Sports Talk here at Love 101 FM. Could you just outline for us very briefly, Kathia, what are some of the current matters or issues affecting the JFF elections?
Okay, so up to last week, Friday, the JFF elections were set and ready to go for Sunday in Hanover. At about midday last week, Friday, the news broke that based on a court ruling of an injunction, the election has to be postponed at least for the next 28 days. And that is because one of the delegates are saying that they should be able to vote in the elections, and the JFF is saying no, because of your status with the Companies Office of Jamaica, you're not able to. And so the court has given the permission for this person to be registered, or this organization to be registered to the Companies Office of Jamaica, and so has said, at least for the next 28 days, we will not have the elections.
Thank you, Kathia. And Jackie Cummings, I suppose you have a similar understanding of the facts. Is there anything you'd like to add to that? Good morning again, Jackie Cummings. I hope if you're unmuted, you can unmute yourself. I'm not sure if that's what's happening.
Just a correction. The entity that has taken us to court is not an unregistered entity. And the issue was not the registration of that entity before the court. There was a new constitution that replaced the articles by the Jamaica Football Federation. That constitution in Article 12, expanding the voting body of the federation from the 13 parishes being Kingston and St. Andrew considered one, to
Yes.
include the top 4 clubs in Tier 1 men and women's football competition and the top 4 clubs in women's competition, and 7 organizations, one of them being beach football, or it's internationally called beach soccer.
Yes.
They were beach soccer sent in their documentation to ratify their membership, and a new association called beach football thereafter sent in an application to ratify the membership. And what happened is that the board considered that they would take the latter entry, which coincidentally was formed by board members and an employee of the board allegedly, to edge out the original beach soccer, which has organized football, for soccer football in Jamaica on the beach for the past couple of decades. So it is with that now, my understanding is the reason why Pat Gorell, who's the president of Beach Soccer Jamaica, took the federation to court, because if you're not a member of the association, you can't seek remedy within an association you're not a member of. So she sought her remedy with the courts.
Interesting. And what are the positions being taken by the relevant parties? Well, you have outlined in a nutshell the position being taken by beach soccer. Any opposite or opposing position that you can outline for us, Ms. Cummings?
Well, the federation is claiming that it is the board's province to determine who is the entity to vote. And we said, no, it's not the board's, because the board is conflicted, because the board can't be ratifying an organization that is some of its own members created recently to oust an organization that has existed from ever since beach soccer started in Jamaica. Similarly with the coaches, there has been a coaches associations registered at the company's office since 2009, and the recently formed association by member of the board was accepted by the board as the association that they wish to give the vote to, which is why the coaches also took the matter to court. But you know that there was a threat on the particular coach and he withdrew the application.
Now, I know you mentioned a matter about in relation to a threat, and I mean, without necessarily getting too much into that, is it that the threat was? Can you advise the listeners if the threat was reported, or was it just that someone issued a threat and it was reported in the media? Was it reported to the police? That's what I'm asking.
I am uncertain where the report went. I learned it from his lawyer, who's
Okay.
our colleague.
Okay, understood. And Kathia Davis, you heard about this particular threat?
Yes, it was reported that, I mean, into the news outlets,
Yes.
including
yes.
ours, that because of the threat, he withdrew the application. So
I'll leave that there for the time being. Jackie Cummings, is there anything else you want to report to us before we head to the break? Because I don't think to my recollection, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Counsel, but to my recollection, I don't remember the JFF being, or any sort of issue like this affecting the JFF in quite some time, attracting so much media attention. Jackie Cummings?
You're correct, because the way in which the JFF has amended its rules over the years, it basically ousted majority of the persons who are the stakeholders in football. Because when Captain became president of JFF, ISA had a vote, Intercol had a vote, referees had a vote, coaches had a vote. And he amended the rules of the federation to take away those votes and allowed only the parish presidents to have the vote to determine who is the president.
Jackie Cummings, I see where we are already upon a break, and I'm mindful as well that we have no one on the Ricketts team here this morning to speak with us. But alas, more and on after the break. Listeners, don't go anywhere at all. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
In life, the more you have, the more you have to lose.
The more you love, the more you worry. The more you own, the less you sleep.
The more people rely on you, the more you have on your mind.
I have peace of mind.
Knowing that whatever I own
And whoever I care about are covered by the very best.
with Sagicor Life and Advantage General, get life, health, and general insurance to help you protect what matters most.
NIS pensioners, avoid the wait. Get your NIS pension straight to your bank account. It's easy. Simply visit the Ministry of Labour and Social Security's website, mlss.gov.jm, or the nearest NIS office and collect the direct deposit application form. Then complete the form and submit it along with supporting documents to the NIS office nearest you. Avoid crowds and long lines. Get your money when you want it. The National Insurance Scheme, always working for you.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, and the topic in this first watch is postponement of Jamaica Football Federation elections, the JFF elections. Our guests are Kathia Davis, sports commentator, host, Sports Talk, Love 101 FM, and she is in studio. And we have on the line, on the platform, Jackie Cummings, attorney at law and JFF vice presidential candidate of Team Anderson. And again, we wish we had someone this morning on the platform from Team Ricketts, but unfortunately we don't. And if we revisit this topic again in the future, we will endeavor to have someone from Team Ricketts on with us. We do apologize to Team Ricketts that we do not have them here with us today. Now, what has the injunction done, if anything, Jackie Cummings, in relation to this current situation? And I also noticed that FIFA appears to be weighing in. First of all, if you could also outline for the benefit of the listeners, certainly from an educational standpoint, what the injunction does, and then if you can make any comments, if any, in terms of FIFA weighing in. Jackie Cummings?
Well, the situation is the injunction has put a pause on the election process. Our team, that is the Real Solid Action team, led by Raymond Anderson, our presidential candidate, because you now vote on slate. So you don't vote individually in the election for the Jamaica Football Federation. You vote for a presidential candidate and his slate of members. And our slate comprises of presidential candidate Raymond Anderson, myself as vice presidential candidate, Mr. Keith Wellington, vice presidential candidate, Donald Beckford, vice presidential candidate, Orville Powell, vice presidential candidate, Carol Beckford, and Wycliffe Dave Cameron as our directors. That is our slate, which Mr. Ricketts has described as Anderson has surrounded himself with bright people. These are persons who are experts in their own field and bring a lot to the table, which we want to change the football policies and governance and structure in Jamaica and focus on the development of football. Okay. What in fact happened is that with this new constitution, which was promulgated by the same 13 parish presidents and the current electorate, that they have increased the stakeholders. And all we are saying, you create the rules, play by the rules you created. There are too many things that are happening which were unconstitutional, which we brought to the fore early in the day and said, this is unconstitutional. Firstly, the election should have been held from as far back as September last year. We are now in 2024, and that is when they put the elections for their own strategic purpose. I can answer that. Secondly, we recognized that there were newly created entities that were trying to compete with existing ones. And we brought that to their attention and says, you need to understand that you can't oust the existing entities. The Constitution spoke to these existing entities. Every letter we wrote to the JFF, to the General Secretary, to the President, to the Electoral Committee, we copied the hierarchy, which is the Caribbean Football Union, CONCACAF, and FIFA, to say this is happening. They are not playing by the rules they themselves implemented. Look at what's happening down here. And what happened is that despite our letters, despite our protests, we weren't being properly heard. And we reached to the stage where we were days away from the election, and we had sent documents to the appeals committee of the electoral body, waiting a decision which was crucial to the election. So this court injunction has come at a wonderful time to put everything on pause, to allow the electoral committee to properly look at our arguments, because we put 8 points before the electoral appeals committee that the electoral committee failed to address, or address we found incorrectly. And in so doing, this injunction has caused a pause to the election and has woken FIFA up to say, wait, something is happening in Jamaica if it reach court. Let's come down and see what's happening.
I want to go there now, Jackie Cummings. You said FIFA has woken up. Comment or indicate to us the relevance of FIFA, if you can, at the moment in this entire affair. Again, I'm being very careful. I know that there's a matter before the court, so without necessarily weighing into what's before the court. Yes, Jackie Cummings.
FIFA is the governing body of football worldwide. Unfortunately, FIFA has an ouster policy whereby they don't want their disputes ventilated in a civil court. They want their disputes ventilated through the football hierarchy.
Almost like an arbitration type clause situation.
Correct.
Yes.
And they don't like when federations or member states take matters to court or are taken to court. They frown upon that.
Member bodies, yes.
They frown upon that so much so that they have very draconian policies when it is done. However, if you follow what has happened recently in the Court of Arbitration for Sports, they have recently, in the Super League dispute with the big clubs in Europe who wanted to form the Super League, took FIFA to court and the European Confederation to court to say, we have a right to form our own Super League of clubs. The Barcelonas, the Manchester Cities, the Juventus, they want to form a Super League for themselves. And FIFA and all the other football associations says, no, stay in your own country and form your own league. CAS has come out and said, FIFA, your policy of not taking matters to court, to a regular court, is outdated. You cannot continue along those lines. So in this particular case, the person who has taken the federation to court has been told by the federation, you're not my member. So she has no status to appeal to FIFA because JFF says, you're not my member. So her only recourse was to the court.
Kathia Davis, I saw you nodding quite a bit as Jackie Cummings was making the points in relation to FIFA. Talk to us in relation to the relevance of FIFA to this affair, and you are nodding particularly when Ms. Cummings was indicating to us that FIFA frowns upon these matters being ventilated in the courts.
Yes, and the reason, as Ms. Cummings said, FIFA doesn't like when a third party, they want it is that the association has to deal with the matters, and that's why they give all these powers, and the association have these powers so that things don't get outside of the association. Draconian as it might be, that's how FIFA does their thing. And we have seen that FIFA has sanctioned associations such as Venezuela has come under sanctions, India, Nigeria, these countries have come under sanctions because of the injection of third-party personnel in matters of a regulatory or of association. So if you want to call it, FIFA just doesn't like it. They don't like that we get into that. And of course, as Ms. Cummings mentioned earlier, CAS made in terms of the battle going on with the European clubs, the top league clubs. But one of the things that has happened is that the local associations have said, well, if you're going to take part in the Super League, we're going to put sanctions against. And so most of the clubs, if not all, have to take 10 steps back and said, we're not taking part in it again because of what we're going to face in our own countries.
Understood. And but first, before I go back to Ms. Cummings, Kathia, do you think that some of these policies, rules of FIFA are a little bit outdated in terms of not wanting matters ventilated in the courts, or if you think they're fine, then say so. I mean, or where do you stand generally speaking on that point?
Generally speaking, you want things to ensure that they're mediated properly, and for matters to be mediated properly, I think a third party injection in matters is needed. So for me, I think I'm on the side that FIFA needs to upgrade their rules to say, have a third party come in and let's figure it out, because what will happen in associations is almost at a rift inside the association, because it's directors against directors, and you don't want that for an association. So then bring in a third party to mediate the situation, and so at the end of the day, the association will be able to move forward. I mean, my concern is, I guess one of the concerns that Ms. Cummings brought forward is that we're supposed to have this election from last year, September.
Yeah.
We're now in January 2024, and the injunction has placed a 28-day pause. That's February 2024 going into March. That's a long time for a federation or for an association not to have a governing, or not to have a governing body, or for the elections based on the constitution that was supposed to take place. And I think that is the wider concern of the Jamaican public, that there's no elections and no this. So we're just like, okay, what's gonna happen?
Ms. Cummings, where does that leave us here? Because never enough time on the morning watch, and we're almost out of time already. But where does that leave us? And any final things you want to report on in this matter?
I think the entire structure of the GFF, its governance structure, needs shaken up. When this constitution was promulgated, FIFA assisted them and then left them on their own to come up with a final document. In that document, it says you have 6 months to inform your members and get them in line by June 30th. They did squat, nothing. The 6 months elapsed and nothing was done. None of the new bodies who had a vote were told, oh, by the way, you have a vote until September of 2023. And then now they're then told them you have until December to regularize your status to ensure you get the vote. But yet they have December 20th is the deadline, but they hold a board meeting and a Congress on December 16 and try to oust Intercol and the referees. And we said, hold on, draw breaks. That can't be fair. If you give them until December to fulfill the requirements, and they fulfill the requirements before the Congress, why are they ousting their opportunity to vote? And all these things we were brought to the fore and said, you are not following your own rules. This is your governance structure that you need to follow. And if you don't follow them, we're going to the next level, and we're going to the next level. So once the appeal decision is made, we will take it from there.
We may have to leave it there this morning, unless you want to add a word or two, Kathia Davis.
No, thanks.
Because I think we're completely and totally out of time. And of course, we didn't have anyone from Team Ricketts on this morning. And if we revisit this topic again, I would love for someone from Team Ricketts to be on. So we will make efforts to have them on if we revisit this topic. It may not go away very soon, so we may just very well have a part 2. I want to thank Jackie Cummings and, of course, Kathia Davis for being with us in this first watch. Very interesting, and more anon. Listeners, the Morning Watch will be back after this break.
possible with a little savings in your hand.
The time by Jam Bank is
7:30 a.m.
when you say Fosrich, you say electrical, SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say Fosrich, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say Fosrich, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Fosrich is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Fosrich.
NIS pensioners, avoid the wait. Get your NIS pension straight to your bank account. It's easy. Simply visit the Ministry of Labor and Social Security's website, mlss.gov.jm, or the nearest NIS office and collect the direct deposit application form. Then complete the form and submit it along with supporting documents to the NIS office nearest you. Avoid crowds and long lines. Get your money when you want it. The National Insurance Scheme, always working for you.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&M Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jmbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&M Bank will help you find a way.
I am a man, yes.
You can't afford to miss the next episode of The Mailbox as we explore the topic Man na Ball in Bite. Part 1. Men have been socialized to stifle their emotions inside instead of feeling safe enough to share their authentic feelings. It appears that the only emotion accepted from men by the society is anger, which if not managed correctly can be destructive. You're invited to join the conversation with our esteemed guest, Mr. Owen Blacker Ellis, on Wednesday, January 17th at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, The Mailbox. Monday.
There is every year on the third Thursday in January, the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast Committee hosts the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast. This is the 44th annual staging under the theme Choose Hope, Arise and Build. Join in the National Leadership Prayer Week, Wednesday, January 17. Pray for health sector leaders. Then on Thursday, January 18, it will be the 44th annual National Leadership Prayer Breakfast at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, live on Love 101 FM. It's a special week of prayer for Jamaica, land we love. The National Leadership Prayer Week, prayer service, and prayer breakfast. Love 101 endorsed events.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at our news sources to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here, firstly, in the Loop Jamaica News, none of that. Prime Minister tells gangsters, none of that. Prime Minister tells gangsters eyeing big, fat contracts to come. And this is in relation to a major project coming on stream. We also have in the Look Jamaica News, Dayton Campbell of the People's National Party says government plans to postpone local government elections until, and that story continues. We have in the Gleaner, St. Vincent increases surveillance for cases of leprosy. St. Vincent increases surveillance for cases of leprosy, and new domestic violence law to come into effect Monday. We turn now to the Daily Observer. Bahamas Prime Minister announces new initiatives to tackle crime, and also on the front page of the Daily Observer, no excuse for abuse, says Grange. But domestic violence victim insists more needed at moment police receive report. And there are some words here in quotation marks on the front page of the Observer. Don't be afraid. And of course, this story is by Petulia Clark and Alicia Smith of the Daily Observer. Coming up next, we'll revisit the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, what should be the response or the Christian response to the Israel-Gaza war? What should be the Christian response to the Israel-Gaza war? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 1FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes too. 876-997-3125. Using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Year, on the third Thursday in January, the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast Committee hosts the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast. This is a 44th annual staging under the theme Choose Hope, Arise and Build. On Thursday, January 18, it will be the 44th annual National Leadership Prayer Breakfast at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. Live on Love 101 FM, the National Leadership Prayer Week, prayer service, and prayer breakfast. Love 101 endorsed events. Are you interested in what happens in the world of sports? Do you want to hear from athletes and coaches as they talk about their perspectives? Join me, Kathia, right here on the family station Love 101 FM for Sports Talk every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. That's Sports Talk 1 to 2 p.m. right here on the family station Love 101. You're invited to listen to Praise Productions with hosts Jace the Performer and Renee as they highlight upcoming gospel ministers. Praise Productions can be heard every first and third Wednesday at 6:40 p.m. Just who will you hear or what will you learn? You never can tell, but you are sure to be lifted, and blessed. Praise Productions, where whatever we do produces praise. Praise Productions, every first and third Wednesday at 6:40 p.m. on the family station Love 101. There is every year, on the third Thursday in January, the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast Committee hosts the National Leadership Prayer Breakfast. This is a 44th annual staging under the theme Choose Hope, Arise and Build. Join in the National Leadership Prayer Week, Wednesday, January 17. Pray for health sector leaders. Then on Thursday, January 18, it will be the 44th annual National Leadership Prayer Breakfast at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. Live on Love 101 FM. It's a special week of prayer for Jamaica, land we love. The National Leadership Prayer Week, prayer service, and prayer breakfast. Love 101 endorsed events.
Welcome back here, tuning to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall, and we are going right into the second watch. Generally, war is not considered to be the preferred response to any disagreement or dispute. In war, people die. Now, we have, at the moment, a dispute, a war. Various persons use different words to describe it. This is in relation to Israel, Hamas. Some say Israel, Gaza. Some make reference to Hezbollah. However you refer to it, people are dying. And dying in large numbers. What should be the Christian response? We have as our guest this morning, Reverend Everell Edwards. Reverend Everell Edwards is a commentator on international affairs and pastor of the Church of the Open Bible at Twickenham Park. We also have Minister Mark Linton, Associate Pastor, Trumpet Call Ministries International, located in Montego Bay, St. James. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. Good morning, Pastor Mark.
Is this a holy war? Is this a holy war? And if it is considered a holy war, does it sanitize it in some sort of a way? Even though persons are dying, does it mean that, well, it's done in the name of the Lord, in the name of God? So casualties must come. After all, we have read many accounts of wars taking place in the Holy Scriptures where many died. Starting with you, Reverend Everett Edwards.
I want to go to the Holy War. A holy war that
Can war be holy?
yes, I would say if you are fighting for justice, if you're fighting for righteousness, if you're fighting for what we as Christians would call godly values, if that is what is at stake, yes.
Are the persons in Israel Christians? Are the persons, well, the majority of them anyway?
No, not no,
the
no.
majority of them are Jewish, yes?
Yeah, indeed.
And,
Jewish. I see increasing evidence of secularism. The while you have a right to
they might identify as Jews, but they may not necessarily be living
right.
a contrite Jewish life, if I could use that terminology.
There you go. So at this October 7 festival, there is a statue of Buddha in the middle of the
October 7th festival. October 7th was when
last year, right?
Israel was invaded or attacked.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So
that's when Hamas came across the border. So it wasn't a celebration. It wasn't Yom Kippur. It was a music festival. And to go back to the point about this being a holy war, what we have is people fight, a nation fighting for preservation of its safety.
I mean Israel.
Under a threat.
Israel.
Being Israel, yes.
Yes, this whole idea of wanting to drive them into the sea.
There you go.
Yeah.
Then you have the Palestinians, Hamas in particular, who feel that this is our land. We have a right to it. So we're not even discussing the possibility of a peaceful coexistence. We can exist peacefully if you go somewhere else. And now both sides are saying we have a right to be here. And the outcome of that is this cycle of violence that has gone on for ever since Israel became a nation.
One moment there, Reverend Edwards, we're almost upon a break already, never enough time in the morning. Minister Mark Linton, and he comes before we head to the break, sir.
Good morning, sirs, and I want to thank you, sir, for giving us this opportunity on behalf of Pastor Mira Wildish and the team at Trumpet Call. I agree with Reverend Edwards in his initial statements there regarding what is happening in Israel and Gaza, between Israel and Gaza. The situation really, the root of it really comes from the fallenness that exists in the world. There are different positions.
Lincoln, I see where we are already upon a break. So sorry to break at that point, but do not lose your train of thought. We want to hear it. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Yes.
You can't afford to miss the next episode of The Mailbox as we explore the topic Man the Ball, Imbibe. Part 1. Men have been socialized to stifle their emotions inside instead of feeling safe enough to share their authentic feelings. It appears that the only emotion accepted from men by the society is anger, which if not managed correctly can be destructive. You're invited to join the conversation with our esteemed guest, Mr. Owen Blacker Ellis, on Wednesday, January 17th at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, The Mailbox. Monday.
NIS pensioners, avoid the wait. Get your NIS pension straight to your bank account. It's easy. Simply visit the Ministry of Labor and Social Security's website, mlss.gov.jm, or the nearest NIS office and collect the direct deposit application form. Then complete the form and submit it along with supporting documents to the NIS office nearest you. Avoid crowds and long lines. Get your money when you want it. The National Insurance Scheme, always working for you.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your wealth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
They're full of life. You're full of love. They're carefree. You care more. That's why we created Child Protector, a critical illness insurance plan from Sagicor Life. It provides coverage for your child in the event of 15 critical illnesses, hospitalization benefits, life insurance, and investment benefits. So make sure your child can live life to the fullest. Apply for Sagicor Child Protector today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, and the topic is the Israel-Gaza war. What should be the Christian response? Or you could argue the Israel-Hamas war, or, whatever other descriptor. Our guests are Reverend Everett Edwards and Minister Mark Linton. Minister Mark Linton, just before the break, you were pointing out to us a couple of things. Please continue. You are agreeing essentially with Reverend Everett Edwards' answer to the question, is this a holy war? I even asked, can war be holy? And Reverend Edwards said yes. And he explained what he meant. Minister Linton, please continue.
Thank you, sir. The fact of the fallenness of man, coming through what happened in the garden and so on.
The Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden.
Garden of Eden, yes.
Yes.
Serves as a root.
Everyone knows what we mean, so I like to clarify things. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I understand. It has set the groundwork, as it were, for many of the ills that we're experiencing in the world. And the apostle, even declared that perilous times shall come in the last days. Perilous times include so many things, different types of crime that is happening, wars that are happening, injustices that are happening the world over. This comes about because of sinful nature of man, and just what is happening in the world in terms of man not being connected to God. I would say that Israel has a natural right to have defended itself against any kind of attack. So from that,
is the response of Israel, though, deemed to be disproportionate? I understand clearly the need to defend yourself on October, in relation to what happened on October the 7th, 2023. Yes. In terms, however, of the response of Israel after that, where it is reported, correct me if I'm wrong, that a significant, a lot more persons, it's reported, have died at the hands of Israel than Israelis that had died at the hands of Hamas. So is the response considered disproportionate? Because in international law, if I could say, the rules of war include that the response of the person who was attacked needs to be proportionate. Any comments on that, sir?
That is a very difficult question to really answer. What does disproportionate mean? I can live a life, a simple life, 2-bedroom house with my furniture and I'm comfortable, and somebody can live a life with a 10-bedroom house and they're comfortable. What does disproportionate mean as it relates to some of these things, right? So it is a very difficult question to answer. And
another one of the guidelines in terms of how you deal with international disputes and conflicts. And forgive me, I have taught international law at one of our universities. So one of the other limbs is that you should not target persons who you would consider vulnerable, such as women and children. It has been indicated that quite a number of women and children on the opposite side of Israel, meaning those who are not from Israel, those who are from the other side, have perished as a result of attacks. So any comments on that as well? I'm not saying that that Hamas hasn't caused injury and death to women and children of Israel. No, not at all. I'm just asking you in relation to persons affected who are not involved in the armed conflict themselves. They are just casualties.
These are so many difficult moral, ethical questions to really process, because according to the news, lots of women and children were kidnapped, raped, beheaded. That Hamas basically, when they went into Israel. And the news also seemed to indicate that Israel's response affected women and children, but Israel is saying, well, it is not intentional. From where I sit, that has to do with the fallenness. We do not have within us the capacity to justly do what is right. And so it's a part of the fallenness and the brokenness that exists in from the human capacity. So the reality is that the scriptures declare that we have to learn to call on God and depend on Him and trust in Him and His word in order to be able to effectively manage and flow through some of these situations. The Apostle Paul says, as much as is possible, as life in you, live peaceably with all men. That implies that it is not always going to be possible to live peaceably with all men. However, Jesus gives a response where he says, if a man slap you on the cheek, turn the other cheek. And he also says, if you come and offer a gift and you remember that your brother has aught against you, go and reconcile to your brother and come and offer a gift. So there are guidelines in scripture as to how to appropriate these responses. However, the politics of the world is entangled in sinfulness and man's desires, and avoid or misrepresent or totally disregard what the word of God says. And so that opens the door for the sinfulness of man to pour out in its fullness on the world. And that's what we are seeing in so many of these different events that are happening in the world right now.
Minister Linton, Pastor Edwards, I haven't, Reverend Edwards, we haven't forgotten you at all. But Minister Linton, just one more thing before we bring back Reverend Edwards in. There is a view that Israel didn't do enough to protect its own borders in relation to the attack on October the 7th. And therefore, I'm not saying that they in any way contributed to what happened to them on that day, but if that view is correct, that they did not do enough to protect its own borders on October the 7th, then clearly they need to weigh carefully how they respond. No, because yes, they defended themselves and they had to, they should. But at the end of the day, should they be causing more escalation of violence from their end? And shouldn't more steps be made to try to bring about some sort of rapprochement or peace? Minister Linton?
I there's an aspect of it that I want to agree with you, all right? But then I also want to measure, did the U.S. protect its borders?
It would be an agreement. It's a question, but go ahead.
No, I understand, because what is happening now is that if I come home and my house is broken into after I've locked all the doors and everything that I think is best, what do I do with the person if I catch a person inside my house? Right? So it's a situation where I should not be held accountable and responsible for having done my part, and then somebody decides to break my boundaries. So it is one of those difficult places to also answer. Yes, Israel is considered to be a more mature nation and so on and so forth, but there are responsibilities on both sides. And right across the world, in every nation, in every business, in every home, once you have secured your borders to the best of your ability as you know how, then the understanding is that no one should break through your boundaries. And so if someone breaks through your boundaries, then it gives you a fair amount of authority or right, as it were, to respond appropriately, as is appropriate to you protecting your boundaries or to you protecting that which is yours.
Reverend Edwards, are we in World War III? And before you respond to that question fully, sir, is there something else at stake? You know, sometimes people may say you use religion to mask something else. Is there some other motive behind this war, in your view, sir? Are we in World War III, Reverend Edwards?
Well, firstly, I don't think we are in World War III.
So, having answered that question, is there some other issue at stake? You know, are there natural resources that the parties are fighting over and they're just not admitting it? What's happening?
No, the natural resources is a piece of land. Not all that big, really, but it's a valuable piece of land.
Only the piece of land, nothing else?
The piece of land is Israel. Yes, we know that there are resources in Israel that offer good prospects, we understand, for economics. The Dead Sea is supposed to be a valuable piece of mineral-based property. I don't think, though, that is the only issue. There is the age-old conflict between what God wants and what.
And I know I'm jumping in, Reverend Edwards, but what should be the Christian response? Should Christians be, well, some people feel that Christians should take a side. Does a Christian have to take a side? Do you have to take the side of Israel? Do you have to take the side of Hamas? Take no side? What's the Christian response? What should the Christian?
The Lord requires of us that we live humbly, do justice, and show mercy. I think we're encouraged to pray for the peace of Israel.
So take no side.
Yeah, the side you're taking is God's side.
Take God's side of
on God's side.
Only because of time, I'm going to intervene. Minister Linton, any responses to that question? World War III, resources, take a side, if any?
All right. I don't think it's World War III, but it has the markings of a number of pointers in scripture concerning what will be happening in the last.
I'm getting a signal. We have seconds left.
The Christian's response ought to be that of compassion. It is not the Lord's will that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. We should be able to go in, evangelize, declare, and decree that the name of Jesus Christ to these persons on both sides of the fence, and give them the opportunity to hear the gospel, for it is in the gospel that there is true peace.
I think we have to leave it there this morning, Reverend Edwards and Minister Linton. And it was a very challenging and difficult conversation to have. But I'm glad we had the conversation. I want to thank both of you gentlemen for being with us and for taking the time out to spend with us today. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to the family station, Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall. I'll be back Love in the Morning with Jokal.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Watch. Today, the time is now 8:01 a.m., and you are now invited to listen to Forward in Faith, brought to you